Today, we're going to talk about the ideas of Steve Biko, one of the most critical figures in the fight against apartheid in South Africa. We're going to look at his own words from his book, I Write What I Like, to really get to the heart of a philosophy that didn't just shake a nation, but still echoes today.
But let's start with a brutal, undeniable fact. In 1977, Stephen Bantu Biko, a brilliant, dynamic leader, died while in police custody. The official cause? Brain damage. He was only 30 years old.
You see, the apartheid government went to unbelievable lengths to silence him. But here's the thing they completely missed. Biko's real power wasn't just his physical presence. It was in his ideas, his philosophy. And that was something that was going to outlive him by a long, long shot.
So you have to ask, right? What was this idea that was so dangerous, so revolutionary, that the government felt they had to kill him to stop it? Well, that's exactly what we're going to dive into.
First up, a weapon of the mind. You see, Biko's thinking was different. He didn't just focus on unfair laws or the economy. He went deeper. For him, the real battle, the most important battle, was being fought inside the mind.
I mean, just think about that for a second. That quote really frames the whole problem. Biko is saying the system wasn't just held up by guns and prisons. No, it was held up by something much more subtle, a feeling of inferiority that had been deliberately planted in the minds of the Black community.
And he had a name for this condition: spiritual poverty. This wasn't about being poor in a material sense. It was about being stripped of your self-worth, being so dehumanized that you start to believe your oppression is just normal. You accept it, and you turn your anger on your own community instead of the system that's crushing you.
Okay, so if the problem is psychological, then the solution has to be too. And this is where Biko's thinking got really controversial, because he turned his focus onto a group that most people thought were allies: white liberals.
Biko really took aim at these well-meaning liberals. He felt that they just didn't get what their role should be. They condemned apartheid, sure, but he argued that their approach was actually causing more harm than good. It was creating this illusion of progress that wasn't real.
And this breakdown shows you exactly what he meant. Liberals wanted multiracial groups, but Biko saw that these just kept the old power dynamic alive. You'd have white people who benefited from the system in charge, and Black people as like junior partners in their own liberation. He called this kind of integration a soporific, basically a sleeping pill. It makes you feel like you're doing something, but the real power structure never, ever changes.
So here's the bottom line for Biko. The whole focus was wrong. This wasn't a Black problem that needed solving. It was a white problem. It was white racism. And so his message to liberals was clear. Stop trying to lead the Black struggle. Your job is to go back to your own communities and dismantle the racism there.
All right, so that diagnosis led to a pretty radical prescription. If the integrated groups weren't working, you needed a new plan. And that plan began with a strategic retreat.
This was the big idea behind the South African Students' Organization, or SASO, which Biko co-founded. The idea was to create an all-Black space where Black people could figure out their own path forward, on their own terms, without any influence from those who had an interest in keeping things the way they were.
Now, this is a super important point. This withdrawal was not a call for permanent segregation. Not at all. Biko was crystal clear that this was a temporary tactic. It's like a sports team huddling up before a big play. You withdraw, you build strength and solidarity as a group, and then you re-engage with society, but this time from a position of power, not weakness.
And it's from this whole strategy that Biko's most famous idea was born: Black consciousness. And this wasn't just some catchy political slogan. It was a deep psychological journey. He called it an inward-looking process.
So in his own words, it's a realization. It's that moment you recognize that the very thing being used against you, your Blackness, has to become your rallying point. It's about coming together as a group to finally break those psychological chains that have kept you down.
And he saw this as a process with very clear steps. Look how personal this is. It starts with self-awareness, finding yourself again. Then you pump life back into that empty shell. You fill yourself with pride. And then comes the really tough part. You have to look yourself in the mirror and acknowledge your own role in allowing the system to use you. For Biko, liberation had to start in the mind.
So the goals were massive. First, tear down the lie that white is the default normal and Black is some kind of deviation. Then, build up a new pride in Black culture, Black history, and Black heroes. And the ultimate goal?
to create real black people. People who were whole and complete on their own, not just some kind of add-on to white society.
So what was the endgame? What kind of world did Biko want to build? Well, it was never about just flipping the script and replacing one type of domination with another. His vision was way bigger and much more humane.
But before we get to that, we have to tackle the accusation that was always thrown at him and still is today. Wait a minute, isn't this just racism in reverse?
And Biko's answer was so sharp, so clear. He said, look, racism needs power. It's about discrimination plus the power to subjugate, to hold someone down. Black consciousness wasn't about subjugating anyone. It was a response to being subjugated. It's a logical, defensive move to counter the daily reality of white racism.
Understanding that difference is absolutely key to getting his final vision. He rejected what he called artificial integration, which was really just black people trying to assimilate into a white world. His goal was true integration, a society where every group participates freely as equals with mutual respect, a genuine fusion of cultures.
And his vision ended with this beautiful, universal idea. Biko believed that by reclaiming its own humanity, by focusing on community over raw power, Africa had a gift to give the entire world, a more human face.
And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? Biko's work is this powerful reminder that oppression isn't just physical, it's psychological. So as we look at the injustices in our own world today, you have to wonder, how could focusing on psychological freedom, on self-worth, and on group pride change the way we fight for a better world?